Hi, I'm John Rofrano, Senior VASST Trainer here for Boris TV, and welcome to the Boris Continuum Complete for Vegas Pro Training Series. In this episode, we're going to take a look at the Beat Reactor, but this time we're going to do some advanced functions. We're going to use all three parameters. If you're not familiar with the Beat Reactor, you can go back and look at our Beat Reactor Basics video, but in essence, what it does is allow you to take parameters from the BCC effects and animate them to the beat of the music, saving you hours and hours and hours of keyframing. What we've done here in this one, I had a DVD that I was making for the School of Rock. My son Mike attends the School of Rock, and I thought, wouldn't it be neat if I could make this bass drum beat in time to the beat, right? Have the bass drum really be affected in this DVD menu. So what I have in this menu is just a plain old picture, right? It did nothing in the beginning. I took a picture of the bass drum at the actual stage, and I used Filter Forge to kind of grunge it up a bit, and this is what I came up with. And I thought, how can I make this be even better? And so what I thought was, what if I used a ripple effect to make the bass drum beat? So we'll go to BCC Warp, and that's where ripple effect is. We'll take BCC Ripple, and we'll drop it down on here. And you can see right away there's a ripple effect going on. I'm going to play it for you. And it's rippling forever and ever and ever. So what I want to do is first take and center that in the middle of the bass drum. So I'm going to open up the center point, and I'm going to move that into the center of the bass drum. I'm using my control key here to get a little bit more control. Now, what I want to do just to show you how this is being affected is I want to actually increase the radius so that it comes out bright more. Of course, you wouldn't normally do this unless you were trying to do some radar type thing. But just so you can see how things are being affected, and then we'll scale it back down to get it within the bass drum. Now, one of the things we want to change is the inside radius. Notice when I play it, there's like these little droplets happening here where they're coming out of a central point. And of course, you know, the beater on a bass drum is not a central point. It's rather a thick thing. And we want to increase this radius just to get that point out of the middle. That's all we want to do, just so that it's not, there's no central point. It's just kind of this point in the middle here. Now, one of the things we want is to affect the phase of these waves. So let me show you. The phase is now set to 0, and normally this is animated. So when I move the phase, watch what happens to the waves. See how they come out, right? Increasing the phase makes them come out, decreasing the phase makes them go back in. So we thought, well, what if each time there is a pulse of the bass drum, this wave went out a little more, a little more, a little more, a little more. The problem is you don't want it to stop. It's not going to just go out and stop. It's going to kind of go out and continuously ripple. And so the speed is going to become important here. And if we watch how fast it's rippling, it's just a little bit too fast. So I'm just going to back the speed down just a little bit. Maybe kind of half of what it was. Just a little bit slower. I'm going to make the speed slower so that as you get the pulse of the wave, and then you get a little bit of the speed bringing it out. And that should make it look pretty good. We can also adjust this fall off a little bit of these waves just to make them fall off a little more. We'll fine tune that more later. Let's go down to the Beat Reactor and see how we can now affect this. I'm going to turn the Beat Reactor on, select my external file. As we said in the last tutorial, the Beat Reactor only takes audio interchange files. Those are really easy to render out in Vegas. And I'm going to take this acid loop that I have of the bass drum. And so now I've got the external audio file loaded in, and I have to decide what parameters do I want to modify on this BCC ripple. I'll flip down the apply parameter. We'll see I can affect the radius, wave height, wave width, phase, perpendicular height, and the light level. So the first thing I want to do is affect the phase. And I want the bass drum to affect the phase. And you'll notice this little bounding box is here that is going to show me what part of the wave is going to be affected. So I want to go on a bass drum hit. There's a bass drum right there. We'll see the energy for the bass drum is really down here. So I'm going to open up the audio apply options. My sampler is going to be a percentage of the box. I'm going to open up my 2 sample corners, my upper right and lower left, and I'm going to bring those down. So I want to come in here and make it just about like that. Now I want to check my snare drum hits and make sure that my snare drum hits don't have any audio down in that area. Now notice this snare drum right here has a little bit of audio down in this corner So I'm going to bring this up a bit just to get above that audio so that I know that it's not going to affect anything in my bass drum. And now we'll check the bass drums and see how high they go and maybe bring it down a bit so that, notice this indicator here is showing me, watch as I make this taller. As I make this taller, this indicator goes down to show me that there's less effect on this parameter because it's doing a percentage of the box, and it's only about 80% of the box. So if I bring the top of the box down, then we'll say, now I'm getting close to 100% of the box, and you see that that parameter is a little bit higher. So these are good visual indicators of how much you're affecting and what you're affecting. Right, so let's go up here and see how we can apply this. Now, I don't want to add this effect to the parameter. I actually want to replace the parameter in this case. So I'm going to go to replace value. And let me just show you what we have so far. You'll see there is a little nudge going on there, right? So you can actually see that those waves are being nudged. The problem is it's going out and coming back. Out and coming back, right? Because it's going from 100 to 0 here, out and back, and we don't want that. So in the output range here, right, we're gonna make it go much, much, much higher. I want to have it go all the way up really high, and then to my fall off, I want to say build up to max. So rather than have the parameter go from 0 to 100 back to 0, where you get this pulsing effect, it'll go, maybe 0 to 100, and then 100 to 200, and then 200 to 300, right? It'll keep building up to the max. So let's watch it now. Now it's going kind of crazy. The reason it's going crazy is because I've got to increase my fall off time, right? My fall off is much too short. And so let's put it up to 300, see what we got. I still have a little shimmer in there, so I'm going to hold my shift key and bring it even further. Now I've got, maybe even back it down a little. Now I've got something, so maybe about 4, maybe 4.5 or something like that. Let's watch that. So I've got it to where it's building out and it's giving a pulse. Bring this up a little more. So it's giving me a pulse and it's building out. And that's kind of what I wanted. I wanted a little extra boost. And by the way, we're not seeing this in real time, so I should probably do a Shift B for a RAM preview so you can see how this is being affected in real time. Right, so you can see that it's actually building up there. Okay, now what we have to do is say, well, we only want there to be waves when something's happening, right? So right now here's a snare hit, if you're watching down here on the waveform, and then there's nothing. So when there's nothing, I don't want any waves. So the next parameter that I want to play with in effect is on option B. I want to say I want the wave height to be the next thing. Now you'll notice it gave me another bounding rectangle so that I can determine where on the, what part of the waveform ought to be affected by this. And I'm going to use an option we haven't used before. I'm going to go down to the bottom here for the sampler, link to sampler from options A. And now it's using the same box. So this is how we link more than one parameter to the same area. You don't have to go create the area again and again and again. You just link it to option A, and then you can just change it all in one part for option A. So now let's take a look at this. Now you notice it's not giving what we want. So what might be wrong here? Well, I have it set to add to value. So it's adding to whatever wave value is there. It's making the wave height a little higher, but then it's resorting to the default value. So I'm going to say replace value. And look, as soon as I said replace value, you can see in the middle, the wave height is only being shown. And let me do a RAM preview here so you can see it. So what's happening is I'm getting a wave height on this bass drum hit, but what are these other things out here? Well, these other things out here are a light effect because there's actually a light fall off going on, right? So let me finish up with this one here. I want to go to the fall off and I want to make that quadratic hard. And and I think the half a second is probably fine for this particular one. So notice when I made it quadratic hard, it was a lot more believable. So let me go back to nothing. It's kind of flashing on the screen really hard, on and off, and it doesn't give you the proper effect. So we want it to be smoother. I'm going to use quadratic hard here and look at the difference. Yeah, because it kind of falls off nice and easily. Okay, let's go take care of these rings of light, which is the next thing I want to go affect. So I'm going to open up option B. Open up option C. Let me close B and open up C. And for C, we're going to use the light level. Right, so once again, I've got a new bounding rectangle. I want to take that bounding rectangle and say link to sampler from A. And so now it's looking at the same thing that A is looking at. I want to go to replace value so that they're not always on. Make this quadratic hard. Let's take a look at this now. So now we've got the light pulsating, we've got the wave height pulsating, and now I will go back to the beginning where I had made this ridiculously large, the radius, and I want to bring the radius down. So now I want the radius to just be, you know, within that bass drum. So we're going to make it smaller here, and then because that's really a small area, I might want to make increase my wave, decrease the wave width to get more waves in there. And now let's do a RAM preview on that. And matter of fact, I want to turn off the graph, and let's do a RAM preview and see what we got. So let's watch this. You know, and if you thought that was too many waves, let's go get it on a bass drum beat. We can go back off the number of waves. Take the wave width and bring it up a little bit. Here's where we can take the fall off and increase the fall off a little. And do another RAM preview. There we go. Now, you might think even this is a little bit too dramatic, right? I mean, if it's really supposed to be a bass drum, don't forget, we can go down. Let's go down to these audio apply options, and let me open up B again. You know, that wave height, let me park it on bass drum. We can take that wave height and the output max and just bring the output max down, right? So it doesn't have to be that dramatic. You might want to also do the same thing for the light level. And we'll just bring that down a little. Well, that doesn't look too bad. Let's try it again. And let me do a RAM preview so you can see this more in time with the music. But you can see it's much, even with the RAM preview, you can see it's much more subtle, right? Doesn't have to be in your face, doesn't have to be that big, right? But you can see how we applied, you know, 3 different parameters to make this work. Now we have a little bit of time. Let me do one more. I'm actually going to take this and save it as bass drum. And we'll save that. And I just want to go over just a little bit and do one more thing. Here I've got a car that I want to apply the same effect to, but we want to take it one better than that. So let me go back down here to where the car is, and I'll go to my plugin manager, take the BCC Ripple, drop it on, and go to my bass drum that I just made, and now I've got the bass drum applied, and I'll go add my external file. And this time I'm going to use a different external file. I'm going to go over here to the episode I'm working on and use this one here. And let me now adjust this for this one by increasing the radius a bit. Make that a little bigger. We'll get the wave width a little bit bigger, and let's look at this. And in fact, I want to get this radius even bigger and the wave width even bigger on this. Sorry, I was doing the height. The wave width a little bit bigger on this. So there's kind of the same thing here with the car. And this time I want to add one more thing to it, which is BCC Puffy Rays. Because Puffy Rays is another one I love to use, this Rays Puffy here. And that also has the Beat Reactor in it. So let's get a preset that looks kind of nice. We'll go through these. And that one looks kind of good. A little intense, but we'll play with that. So I'm gonna open up my light source, put that towards the middle, so it's coming right out of where the Beat Reactor is coming out of, and then I'll do the same thing. I'll go down to my Beat Reactor, turn it on, get my same external file, and then the thing I want to play with is the intensity here. Let's open this up and see. Right away I can tell it's going to be a little too intense, so we're going to adjust that down a bit. And let's play with it. And actually, let me do another replace value. There we go, and then we bounce it back up. And that gives us a little bit of rays going along with that. So let's... And actually, I want to adjust this area here to make it a little bit smaller. So let me go into the controls for the sample corners, bring those up. And one of the things I can do, if I go back to BCC Ripple and I turn the Beat Reactor graph on, it'll show me the graph that it was using. And then I can just go back to Puffy Rays and overlay that graph so that they're affected by the same thing. So that's a cool way of getting two separate parameters or two separate plugins to use the same Beat Reactor area. So let's put this here, this one here. Now I've got them lined up. I'll go back to BCC Ripple and turn off the grid, the graph, and then we'll come back up here. And this is a little bit long. Let me just shorten it up a bit and do a RAM preview. As a matter of fact, before I do that, I want to turn off the graph on this Beat Reactor as well so you can see what's going on. Let's do a RAM preview on that. So you can see what we have going on here is two plugins, both of them using the Beat Reactor. I've adjusted the second plugin to work just like the first plugin by having the matching the Beat Reactor graph area. And let's play this back. So there, you got some nice glow, you know, coming in with these Rays Puffy along with the beat. That adds a little bit more, and as a matter of fact, we can we puff this up a little bit more if we want. But you get the idea. You can kind of play with these things, and you know, and really be creative about, you know, mixing the Ripple with Puffy Rays with, you know, all sorts of things, because a lot of these new BCC effects are using the Beat Reactor. So so that's something that you're going to want to explore as you look through the BCC 8 effects, see which ones use the Beat Reactor, and kind of use those. So that wraps it up. Hopefully you understand how to use some advanced options of the Beat Reactor better. If you need more information, drop by borisfx.com. This is John Rofrano for Boris TV. Until next time, thanks for watching.